I'm doing an introduction about invasive carp. What are invasive carp? How did they get here? What have we been seeing with them? Our own invasive carp program here, what we do regularly, our work, our action plan update that was completed about a year and a half ago, that's guiding our work now. What you can do as a public to help, and then again passing on to other folks for further info in detail. So when we're talking about invasive carp, we're talking about these 4 species of fish: silver carp, baghead carp, grass carp, and black carp. They were formerly called Asian carp, and now we call them invasive carp. Common carp are also invasive species. They're not part of this 4 species group that we call invasive carp. Tricky, but that's just to be clear what we're talking about today. They're all from China, and they are related species. Silver carp and baghead carp can interbreed. Silver carp and baghead carp filter out plankton from the water, so they're filter feeders. They hang out mostly at the surface. Silver carp are the ones you might have seen videos jumping out of the water, and they jump like a flying fish, like 10 feet out of the water, very far. Baghead carp don't usually jump like that, but closely related. Grass carp eat vegetation, so they're mostly on the bottom. Black carp eat snails and mussels, and basically anything protein related, nuts, whatever they get a hold of. And they can grow to be as big as me, basically. And we don't have black carp in Minnesota, but we do have the other 3 species. So like I said, they were brought to the US from China. The purpose was to control plants and algae and snails in aquaculture ponds. But flooding happens upriver, and the river flooded and got into these aquaculture ponds, and they got out of the aquaculture ponds. So in the 70s, they escaped in Arkansas. They've been making their way up the Mississippi River ever since. Seems to be that flooding is really an important part of the story, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. But they've been moving upstream, and including to Minnesota. This is a map showing the extent of invasive carp in the United States. Blue is basically showing there's some adults present, but we don't have confirmation of any sort of reproduction occurring. Yellow is reproduction intermittently, but we're not sure exactly if there's established there yet. Red is regular reproduction is occurring. So you can see we're up in this blue area, and they have basically reached as far as they can in Minnesota to barriers that are substantial barriers to fish movement. So we've caught them up to pool 2. That's the most upstream. We've caught them in the main stem. The lock is closed at Upper St. Anthony Falls for the express purpose of preventing invasive carp movement to the headwaters of the Mississippi River. It's closed in 2015, so that is a hard stop there. They're also up to Stillwater in the St. Croix River. St. Croix Falls, Sandwich Falls, that's another hard stop for fish. So we presume they're moving in that space as well. And they've also been caught up to just below Grand Falls in the Minnesota River, which is another one that's difficult to pass. Maybe not as hard a stop as these other 2, but a pretty hard stop. So we presume they're able to move through these spaces up to those limits. We also have a portion of the state, the southwest corner of the state is in the Missouri River Basin. We do have some preventative measures in place. We did a study over a decade ago now to find watershed breaches and put in deterrents to stop them from moving further inland there. But you can see we have a few captures right on the border. That would be part of the Missouri River Basin. Another thing to notice is a lot of our captures are in the southeast corner of Minnesota, and most of them are below Loppnow 5. Kind of where you have like that group of yellow dots starting going down, that's about where Loppnow 5 is. That is another pretty good barrier to fish movement, and the reason why Loppnow 5 deterrent project is going there, and Carly will talk more about that too. Another big player in this is Loppnow 19. That's at the Iowa-Missouri border. Black carp haven't been observed above Loppnow 19 yet, and we hope they never are. But fish are only able to pass through the lock at that site. The dam is not passable. It's like a high head dam, and it's a hydroelectric dam. There's a pretty good drop there. So there is currently a temporary deterrent for invasive carp in there, a sound-based deterrent. And Brooke's going to talk more about deterrents too, and what that all means, I'm sure. But Minnesota is interested in pursuing, advocating for a more comprehensive deterrent at Loppnow 19 to prevent other invasive fish and black carp from reaching Minnesota entirely. And if you have questions along the way, please feel free to jump in. I'm going to cover a lot of ground, so ask me questions. We've been managing carp since the early 2000s. We take a variety of approaches. We use prevention and deterrence to limit movement. We tag and trap invasive carp so we can figure out where they are moving, so we know where to put deterrents, and so we know where to fish for them. We contract commercial fishers to do that fishing, and we also monitor for all life stages. We need to know if reproduction is occurring up here, because that might prompt us to do some different management actions. We're also developing methods to better capture invasive carp. It's a different situation up here than a lot of these places that have really high abundances of invasive carp, and a lot of the methods that they traditionally use don't seem to work well here. I think it's because, again, we have fewer carp, but we also have more diverse habitat. We have these braided channel systems. It's not just a kind of a confined pipe sort of a system, like you might have in some spots of the Missouri River, for instance. So we have to get creative about how to get them in the net. And we do a lot of coordination. It's really a nationwide issue, and so what happens downstream affects what happens up here, and we work closely with people on that. We monitor, like I said, to see if reproduction is occurring. We haven't had any detections of invasive carp eggs or larvae to date, but we have seen some aggregations of carp at the appropriate time of year that are concerning. We're also monitoring the adults for signs that they've spent their eggs or reabsorbed their eggs. We haven't seen any that we think have spent their eggs yet, but we have seen ones that we know are reabsorbing their eggs. That's a good sign for us. And we also look at the size and age of them to figure out, are they being produced here or in known reproductive events further downstream. And we've even used some chemistry to try and figure that out. Fish are basically made from the waters they're in, so they have a certain chemical signature that aligns with the water they live in. So you can actually take fish bones that lay down rings like a tree and basically use a laser to blast each layer off and analyze the chemicals in each layer and figure out where a fish has lived at different times of its life. It's really cool stuff. And we've also done some modeling with USGS. They modeled reproduction in pools 1 through 10, well 1 through 9, and basically simulating if a spawn were to happen below each of these dams. Where would the eggs be when they hatch or when the larvae can start swimming around? And that helps us know what gears we should be using where to sample. You don't want to use a gear that something has to swim into if it's not old enough to swim into it, you know, when it's in that pool. So that's helpful for us too. We monitor for changes in abundance. We don't have a great way to estimate abundance up here because we do have a low density, low enough that we aren't getting enough data from captures to give us an estimate. So we use multiple lines of evidence to give us an idea of what's happening. We do eDNA sampling with the Fish and Wildlife Service. That's me and someone from the Fish and Wildlife Service taking samples in the top there. And we're looking for changes in that detection rate to tell us if more carp are here than used to be. We monitor commercial fishermen's catch. Come on in. Okay. And we do our own work to capture and remove invasive carp. And we're also looking at the movements of tagged fish, and it's kind of an indicator that other fish might be moving with them. We've also been reporting when we see jumping silver carp. This is something that we didn't see until a couple of years ago, and so we believe there's a correlation between abundance and how often they jump. And if you can see in that bottom picture, there's a silver carp in the middle of it jumping out of the water. That's the kind of jumping we're talking about, clear out of the water. Not, sometimes common carp will jump and it's almost like a whale breaching. It's like, this is like, so.
I saw that in St. Croix a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah?
Ah.
Yeah. Let me know where.
And you had made the statement that
Definitely.
you think that the jumping has some relation to the quantity of fish or lack of quantity?
I think it does.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No specific data yet. Okay.
No, but we didn't start seeing any until 2023 jumping here. And we're seeing it more frequently now. We're getting some reports from the public too. People are like, oh, I was launching my boat and something jumped. And I will send somebody out to look. So let us know if you see something like that. Here's captures throughout time. You can see captures have increased since 2012. Part of this, I think, is the Darmar Park here. Part of it is that we are getting better at capturing them too. So, you know, you'll have to parse that apart yourself, kind of in a way. But we're seeing on EDNA monitoring that those most upstream areas, those are the ones we're primarily sampling. We're not seeing an increase in the rate there. But we are seeing more jumping carp, and we have seen some tag fish move up into Minnesota from downstream. The blue arrows that I have on the graph show some major flooding events that occurred. There was a lot of flooding in 2019, and in 2020, we had our largest capture at the time of 50 down near La Crosse. And then there was flooding also in spring 2023, and we had our largest capture in late fall 2023 of 408 in Pool 6 near Winona. So we're thinking flooding is related to this. I'll go a bit more to that. Tagging data are a big part of why we're thinking this is a thing as well. We have some direct data that we can relate this to. These pictures are from Loppnow 5. They show the roller gates, big tubes basically that hold back the water. In the top picture, they're not fully out of the water, they're still holding back water. And in the bottom picture, they're pulled clear of the water. So at that time, the dam is not really a dam. It's open river. And it's not a barrier to fish movement. When we have the gates further down, it's like having your thumb down on the hose. It's much harder for them to swim past it. It's scary to them. Carp are very sensitive to sound. But when it's clear like this, we see them moving. This shows it also in some more detail. So on each of these lines is one of the dams from 4 to 19. And when the line is broken, the dams are open. And each blue arrow is a tagged invasive carp. And you can see that in 2022, they tried to move upstream, but they got stopped at Loppnow 15. Loppnow 15 acts a lot like our Loppnow 5 here. It's one of the last ones to open when flooding happens. And this is 2023.
The tags,
Wow.
are they electronic? Or just the next time you catch them, you'll know where the fish has been?
Yeah, they're electronic.
Yeah,
So
okay.
acoustic tags, they put out a sound that's too high for us to hear, but we have receiver networks that detect them. They're about the size of a AA battery, maybe a little bit bigger than that, and we surgically implant them in the fish, and they can last for like 7 years.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they get stopped at that lock-in dam, do they go back downriver, or do they hang
Sometimes.
there for a while?
We're still learning a bit more about that.
Okay.
But it seems like over fall and winter, we do see a lot of them move back downriver.
More.
But some will stay. Some will stay, and we'll see them move the next time the dam opens. So it's a little bit of both. But we're learning more about that. So this is 2023. There was a lot of flooding, and you can see a big influx of tagged invasive carp. They got stopped at Loppnow 5. It was closed by the time they got there. But you can also see that one that was waiting in Pool 5A, right as soon as the dam opened, it went up through Loppnow 5 people. So some fish do wait there.
What makes them want to go upriver?
I think it's related to their instinct to spawn. They are obligate river fish. They have to have flowing water to keep their eggs in suspension, or their eggs will sink and hit the bottom and could possibly die. There aren't great studies about how many of them die from the bottom. It would be really helpful to have. But, do that study.
I was like, I don't know. But I do agree with you on the spawning part,
Yeah,
right?
they're trying to put flowing water behind them.
Yeah, it's probably a combo of range expansion and but driven by spawning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a size of 1 million twice a year, right? Just each fish can spawn.
They can, they can
Eggs, 1 million.
put a lot out, and it's one of those, you know, you either have a few babies and you take good care of them, or you have a lot and you don't take care of them at all. This is the latter. A lot, and they just float down river, and whatever happens, happens.
Grace, do you know if there's a place that like mimics their like home spawning activities that's like kind of a place where if they made it that far upriver, we'd be really worried about? Like, do we know enough about their like historic home?
The Illinois River. The Minnesota River is just like, the hydromorphology of the Minnesota River is the same as the Illinois.
Okay.
A lot of backwaters, flowing
The
water,
Minnesota River is very concerning because it's got great food too. I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
it's full.
nutrient rich.
Yeah, full
Okay.
of plankton.
Yeah. And you get that like suspension piece
Right.
of it.
Right.
Yeah. Just curious.
We are thinking tributaries are more a part of this reproduction story than folks have given attention to in the past too. So that's something that's also just being figured out right now. But we do see them in tributaries in the spring. So with this in mind, deterrents are part of the picture. We have 3 electric deterrents operating in southwest Minnesota for invasive carp. There's also one in Iowa that Minnesota paid half for, and Iowa paid half for, because it connects into Minnesota. So we have a vested interest in that. And we also have a deterrent system in central Minnesota. We also have some berms and screens and perforated culverts. There's a bunch of different ways to potentially block invasive carp. Depends what we're talking about. Are we talking about a ditch that always has water in it, or one that just floods once in a while? Different things for different places. Like I said, Upper St. Anthony Falls lock closed as a barrier. The Lock and Dam 5 deterrent project's going on, and Lock and Dam 19 is really on my radar to again try to prevent black carp, prevent northern snakehead, prevent brown goby that are making their way down the Illinois River from getting up here. We have a removal program where we contract commercial fishers by the day. We don't have a market for them up here for a couple of reasons. There's not enough invasive carp to make money on it, and our laws prohibit possession of invasive carp, even if they're dead, even if they're fillets. So you would need to get a permit for us, and we don't have a way to issue permits basically for commercial use. It's for education, research, or disposal. So we are working on, like I have proposed and DNR has carried forward, a measure to allow possession of dead and gutted invasive carp because they don't really pose a risk, and the laws were more developed for plants and zebra mussels and things like that, where you might be worried about parts.
So that's a question, is that a regulation or a law?
It's a law.
Because where you fell behind was for the longest time you could only have 2 implants.
Only have 2 what?
You can only catch 2 and implant 2. That was the law.
For the
So you
tags?
went ahead,
Yeah.
so you went ahead and put them in sheet head and everything else and followed sheet head all over the rivers because you could only bring 2 out, implant them, and that was it.
Yeah. When I got here, I changed the tagging program a lot. I've been here for 4 years now. I am now, the permit comes from DNR, so how many you tag now? It doesn't come from statute. And DNR is allowing up to 100 to be tagged this year instead of 2. So
Why not more?
increased it every year. We haven't run up against it yet. That's the problem. There's only certain times a year you can tag. If it's too warm, the fish will probably die. If it's too cold, they won't heal before the winter. So we haven't caught enough during those right time periods to push up on that limit yet. But I'm
That's gotta be.
tags are expensive too, yeah. But, I'm hopeful that this year might be the year we push, carps.
What help, what can we do to help that? Because that's pretty important.
That's a
Is
good
that
question.
go to the legislators and say,
It doesn't go to legislators, it goes through my chain at DNR, so talk to folks at DNR, not the levels of DNR.
okay,
Yeah.
You could like write on there.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
Alyssa, you writing this down so we can.
Yeah, we are, this year it's 50 above Loppnow 5 and 50 below Loppnow 5. And we're at 20 below Loppnow 5 right now, and I think we're setting up for some good captures soon here, so. Go ahead.
For the budget for the tags, let's say, does that roll over to the next year? Like, if we only have 20, does the other 30 roll over to the next year, or do they?
Our program is largely funded by federal grants
Okay.
for invasive carp work, state appropriations that happen very occasionally, and LCCMR funds. I'm the only base funded person for this program. So, it's just a matter of applying. I do try to keep cash on hand. You know, I know nothing's guaranteed. But yeah, we if we don't have enough money for tags, oftentimes another agency will be like a partner on it too, like the Fish and Wildlife Service. So that's helpful.
Just a clarifying question too, is it 50 per year? Like, if we don't
Yeah.
get 50, it's still 50 next year. We don't
Yeah.
get to like accumulate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting, carry over.
Sorry, I misunderstood that. Yep. Okay, so some techniques we use to capture them. On the left here, there's a seine being pulled in. That's all native fish in that seine actually, but a large commercial seine, that's usually what we're working with. We often have folks along Wisconsin DNR or other folks from Minnesota DNR to take data on the native fish at the same time. They all get released back into the water. We have done some events together with other agencies where we have a bunch of boats driving fish with sound and electricity into the net. And we call those modified unified method or MUM events. And that's on the bottom right there. They've been really good for us to develop different techniques and test different small questions. Like, if you fish this site at the beginning of the week, should you fish it a couple days later, or will that not be useful? Or if you add floating nets to the outside of the seine, will it catch fish that are jumping out? It does, and that's been helpful to us. Another thing we've been using is sound to push fish. In the top photo there, that kayak has speakers on it, and it can be driven by remote control, basically, on an app. And USGS developed that basically for our use, and we're building a couple of those over the winter. Helps us have basically more boats on the water without one people. Oop, boat coming through. Another thing I didn't talk about is we're doing an attractant study right now, trying to bait fish into an area that we can fish easily. That's the top right is a feeder. It's a hopper full of pelletized algae, like from a bulk foods health food store. So we're in the middle of testing that down near La Crosse right now. And the bottom picture is those floating nets that we catch silver carp trying to jump out of the net, and that has been working really well for us. Tagging and tracking is important to tell us where these fish are. We've been tagging since 2017. That top photo is a big head carp being tagged. That's the first fish we tagged up in the St. Croix. And we still are intermittently receiving some data from that fish. Its tag should have expired like a year or two ago, but it's still going. His name is Billy, the big head carp. Yeah. I feel like he's my field lead's white whale. He's trying to recatch this carp and put a new tag in him. Just let it go. Let him go.
So the big head had been in the St. Croix for a long time.
Yeah.
We were always catching at the mouth for years and years. What is it about the St. Croix that attracts the big head?
That's a good question. I'm not sure anyone knows. It seems like big head are the first before silvers. You see them first. It's a pattern that people have seen in other leading edge kind of areas. And then when you see the silvers, you don't see as many big heads after that. It's like the silvers outcompete the big heads.
But they each take different, one takes phytoplankton and the other one's zooplankton, right?
Or they interbreed each other out.
Oh,
Not
and then they
sure.
can take both?
Right. Well, yeah, they have an intermediate like gill flap, but it's really interesting. Yeah, they do have different, basically gill rakers that rake the algae out. Silver carps look like a sponge, and big head carps look like a comb almost. So different sized particles can be filtered out there, and the intermediate ones are like a sponge with little foamy things.
So how long do the big head carp live then? Because if that was 17, that's like an 8-year-old fish at this point.
Right. Yeah, they can live up to like 15 years.
I was gonna say, and that's a big fish,
Yeah.
so it's obviously not, I mean, it's
Not
older.
brand new. Yeah. And one thing with tagging is you know, if you don't see a fish move upstream, you're not sure it's alive anymore. A tag rolling down the river could be a dead fish, or a tag not moving is likely a dead fish. But we keep seeing Billy moving up, so I think Billy's alive.
Do any of the invasives have a predator, a natural predator?
They don't as soon as they reach like a year old because they're too big. Yeah, below that, yeah, you could have some catfish you can have
Little
something.
girls eat a lot of fry too.
Well, common carp especially. I don't know if we know for invasive carp. Yeah.
Man and pollution. China. I remember talking to a guy from the USGS, he says, I go over to China and try and help them figure out how they can get more. And then I come back here and figure out we can stop.
This is just a story of one removal event. This was the big 408 carp capture in Pool 6. So how this all happened was we essentially had Wisconsin DNR out helping us track invasive carp. And they were out in a boat. You put the sensor in the water and you listen for tags, and it makes like a noise and registers the tag number. Well, they found that there were a few tags in this one specific spot in Pool 6, and called us up and said, "We think we found some. You should get out here and fish." So we sent out the commercial fisher, and he did kind of a drive-by with his side scan. He's like, "There's a big school of big fish right there. We're gonna make a plan to pull them out." Pulls a seine around them, and we've got Wisconsin there. We've got Fish and Wildlife Service there. Everybody wants to help, and we end up with this huge capture of invasive carp. It was the very end of November, very beginning of December when we were pulling these out. Pretty cold. So this is kind of just telling the story from like tagged fish to putting the net out to getting them out of the water. It was really a partnership sort of deal, and it took us a couple days to actually get all the fish out of the net. Some of them went to the Raptor Center in St. Paul to feed their birds. We also give some fish to the Minnesota Zoo, and we have a couple other people just kind of on retainer to take some to feed to their sled dogs or whatever. It's hard to get these into human hands for consumption safely. They deteriorate pretty quickly, but this is one way we can have them go to a use. So we do try to do that.
They don't flee easy.
No, they don't. And again, we have to permit everyone we give these to for disposal. So it's kind of a
I'd
process.
rather see them go to the zoo or something else than people.
So just a little brief overview of our action plan. The first one that we made to guide our work on invasive carp was in 2011, and the most recent update was in 2024 in response to those increased captures and new options for managing them. It's a 10-year plan. It's available on our website. Feel free to read through it all if you're interested. But the goal is to slow the spread of invasive carp, minimize their impact, and reduce the likelihood of them reproducing in the Minnesota waters. So we used a structured decision-making process to update this. We got 70 people to participate from more than a dozen organizations, and the USGS folks who specialize in decision-making analysis helped lead this process so that we got a person running this that was not the DNR, basically. And that was helpful for us to get feedback from technical folks and from stakeholders. Stakeholders telling us what they want, what do they want the DNR to do with invasive carp. Technical folks saying, here's the options of what you can do, and here's how well that meets the stakeholders' goals, or doesn't meet the stakeholders' goals. And the main takeaways is that no one action is sufficient to prevent and manage invasive carp. We do have to keep taking this multi-pronged approach. There's some uncertainty there about what this might cost or how effective different options might be. So adding a lot of things together helps mitigate that uncertainty as well. And all of the highly ranked actions are in the management plan that guides our work. So again, monitoring, prevention, response, management, and control, and coordination are the main parts of this. This is a big head carp from that pool 6 capture also, that Winona pool 6 capture. You can see how cold it is. It's frozen behind Brian there. That's a particularly large big head carp.
Got their duck hunting.
Wearing his most insulated waders for the day, yeah. So I kind of talked about all that in the previous slide, but we're just trying to take this integrated approach. So things that you can do, we want you to report your sightings. If you see these, please give us a call. We have this invasive carp hotline. My card is also back there if you take one. We also have an invasive carp hotline email. So reach out, that'll go to our crew who's out there on the water. They'll ask you some follow-up questions and go out there and follow up on it if they find some invasive carp.
Oh, look at how big that is. I mean, that's no
Again,
small
also they're
building.
prohibited, so if you catch one, you have to get a permit from us. The way to do that is go on our website and see, you know, what the email is, what the phone number is, give it a call, and then just leave a message like, I caught this invasive carp, it's here, I'm killing it, and ta-da, your permit is magically issued automatically. So, try to make it not onerous, and hopefully someday we won't have to issue that. It will be legal to have it.
So how big is that carp?
It's probably about 7.
I am not sure. This was before my time. But yeah.
There's pictures of the ones in Arkansas that are over 90 pounds. They're as big as
Holding
that.
it towards the camera.
Yeah.
That's no, yeah.
The other thing that people don't know is you can't fish them. You have to snag them. Or
Yeah,
net 'em.
because they're eating plankton.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is don't move your bait. If you're getting bait out of the river, or if you're getting bait from a bait shop, and you never know what might be mixed in there, let's not move bait around. We don't want to spread fish diseases or any invasive fish that might be mixed in with your bait. So the DNR recommends throwing extra bait away in the trash. And just a general invasive species message, obviously clean and dry your gear to prevent the spread of invasive plants and vertebrates. And again, for more info, we have a website, mndnr.gov/invasive carp. Should get you there. And we've got identification information for invasive carp versus native fish, and how to report, and our action plan and our annual reports. Lots of info up there. So check that out sometime. I've also got a sign back here that you can check out. We're putting up that fishing accesses up and down the river. We're going to put up like 200 of those signs. So yeah, and if you ever have any questions, I can also be your resource. So please contact